Welcome back to Lost Legacies.
A Hidden City Book Company production.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Sam.
Before we get into today's episode, what do we got to talk about? See anything good this weekend?
Uh, I saw Longlegs.
Oh, that's right. You didn't tell me about it, but you said we'll have to talk about we'll have to discuss it. So here I am.
Yeah. I liked it.
Okay.
It's interesting. It's got because I'm gonna try not to spoil it for that's gonna be kind of hard to do. All right. Everybody, I'm gonna kind of sort of spoil Longlegs. So if you haven't watched it, please go watch it. If and then come back to the podcast. I don't know how long I'll be talking about this. Hopefully not too long. So the marketing didn't really do a lot, like it was or I'm sorry, it didn't really tell you a lot of what the story was.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of just get the vibe that like, okay, it's like some like FBI hunting down crazy looking dude, Nick Cage is the crazy guy, so you're like, okay, yeah, like this is gonna be interesting, to say the least. And all the marketing is like, it's so creepy, look at all this stuff, like it's scary, and you're like, okay, sure. Um, you watch the movie and it's like it's doing all that for sure. Um, it is definitely creepy. There's just this overwhelming sense of dread that's in every single shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little style over substance for me
Hmm.
because and the director Osgood Perkins, who is sort of like horror royalty in his own right at this point because he's Anthony Perkins' kid. Anthony
Mm-hmm.
Perkins playing Norman Bates from Psycho. Um, and now he's been doing stuff and making movies and stuff and so it's like, okay, interesting, like he's got this movie out, and during like the press tour he was saying that this was pretty much like his version of like Silence of the Lambs.
Mm-hmm.
So and it was interesting like reading people's reviews because they were mad. They were just like, how dare y'all compare this to Silence of the Lambs? It's like, that's not us. The writer director himself said that this was like Silence of the Lambs. And as I'm watching, I'm like, yeah, it does share a lot of that DNA. We're following a young FBI agent. They're following the clues to track down the killer. It's sort of like a Silence of the Lambs that doesn't have a Hannibal or
Hmm.
a Hannibal
Okay.
like character.
Mm-hmm.
Uh to a degree. So yeah, but yeah, it's just like it's fascinating. It's creepy as hell. But yeah, then it starts to just you get this idea early on, like, okay, like, is this the work of like Satanists? Like, is it how does like the Satanist and the Satan iconography kind of coincide with these murders? Like, what does it all mean? Blah blah blah, all this stuff. And then it kind of just boils down to that actually Satan is real.
Mm.
And these murders were done in the work of his name. And it's like, okay,
Wait,
but
so like he's the bad guy? Like he's killing them or
no, they're just done in his name. It's a weird thing because it's like
mm-hmm.
he's potentially influencing people
Mm-hmm.
to do this, but it's not like him outright doing it.
So is it so from what it sounds like it's not done in a way that leaves it open to interpretation. It's like
No,
nope, he's there.
yeah,
Oh,
and
well,
like
interesting.
there was a detail that I knew going in that I had forgotten about until I started watching it, is that there is a silhouette of like of a figure in like a dark cloak and who has like a ram's head.
Mm-hmm.
There's a silhouette of that in multiple scenes throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I first saw it, I was like, Oh, that's right. Like that, because that's the thing. Like he's supposed to be everywhere.
So it's kind
He's
of like
supposed to be
is it hidden
watching.
like a Hitchcock
Yeah,
silhouette? Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
interesting.
The very last one, the very last one, like I caught it and I was like, oh, whoa, and then I had to explain to Kat, like, oh yeah, like he was there, and he like so he's there during the, and we rewound a little bit, and she was like, oh, whoa, that's crazy. So
Mm,
yeah, but yeah, like that's sort of the like the crux of the movie is just to sort of say that like, hey, bad sometimes people do bad things, and every single time they do, it's because Satan told them to. And it's a
that's
and that's
interesting.
like it's kind of I'm being facetious. Like I don't
Yeah.
fully think that that's what like the movie is saying, but that's kind of the feeling that I got left with is that
Mm.
like there is no
There's no subtlety to that.
yeah. There's no
Mm.
subtlety to it. And also it's just like like it's such a bleak ending too that it's
Hmm.
like this isn't like sure, we stopped the bad guys, but if the true bad guy is Satan,
Hmm.
then did we really stop the bad guys? It's like
Mm.
we no, we didn't. And then like yeah, so it kind of just leaves you off on a bummer note, which is
Yeah.
fine, but it's kind of like you're like the entire movie was leading up to a point where you're kind of thinking like is this real is this really like the work of dark magic
Hmm.
and Satan, like is he real, like is this a possibility? And then as soon as we get into the third act it's like yep, he's real.
It's kind of interesting because it's almost like it's contradicting itself.
Yeah.
When you kind of text me that a little bit um, after you saw it, and I commented that's exactly what happens with the first Wonder Woman movie. Like the whole
Mm.
movie, Diana, she's going to stop this world war because and she's going to do it by killing Ares or the person who's
Mm.
being influenced by him. So her whole goal is to stop this war by killing him, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Steve Trevor is over there saying like this is just people, this is who we are, and blah blah blah. And there's even like the scene where Diana quits, she gives up, she's like there is no evil out there, it's just men and you're just doing this to yourselves. But then
Mm.
the whole movie contradicts itself in the third act by revealing Ares is the villain, which
Mm.
that in itself is okay. And they had the big CGI fight, which was like the weakest part of the whole film.
Yeah.
But then, like after she kills him or whatever, like everyone lays down their guns, and it's like, wait a second, are you telling me Ares was the reason behind World War?
Yeah.
What was that? World War One? World War Two?
Yeah, one.
Yeah, I'm like, it was just so weird. Like, you were making a really cool point, and then you just stopped and went the other direction. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a I don't know if we're still going to talk about Longlegs or not. Hopefully, our audience is back. If not, there's nothing I can do. Hey guys, come back. You're not going to hear me. Um, there was a supernatural novel that came out. This was back when I was still watching, so it was those early seasons,
Mm-hmm.
and it was I think it's called Nevermore, and it's basically just Sam and Dean. They go to where was Edgar Allan Poe's
It's Boston.
Boston? Okay, I guess it's in
Mm-hmm.
Boston, and they're there to solve some case or whatever, some side thing like. But basically, the whole premise of the novel is that there's like a series of murders, and they're being done in like the style of Edgar Allan Poe stories.
Mm-hmm.
And as the story goes on, they don't know if they're fighting something supernatural or if it's just a serial killer.
Mm.
And for a show called Supernatural, where every single episode they're fighting something supernatural, I just found this whole premise really cool because you have these two badass professional monster slayers, and they might just be fighting a dude. And it
Mm-hmm.
was really cool. And in the end, it just turns out it was like some crazy Edgar Allan Poe fanatic who was doing the killings.
Mm.
But in the end, even Sam and Dean weren't sure if he was using supernatural means like to help him or not. They
Oh,
don't know if he was just a
interesting.
crazy guy or if he actually had some kind of power. And I was like,
Hmm.
this is really cool. I wish we would delve more into that type of
Hmm.
storytelling. Like, I'm not sure if that was actually supernatural or not, but
Yeah.
that's the question, you know? And then the book's kind of ruined because there's a side plot where they actually have to go, like, fight a ghost in a house just to have a supernatural element in the story. I was like, oh, that
Hmm.
sucks.
Hmm.
So, but last night I watched the Star Trek: The Next Generation episode Sub Rosa for the first time. This is the infamous episode where Dr. Crusher has a very passionately driven romance. I wouldn't even call it romance. It's more like gaslighting and manipulation and slight possession
Hmm.
with a Scottish ghost. A Scottish ghost in space. Um,
Incredible. I
it's
love science
bad.
fiction.
It's bad, but like I want to rewatch it. Like as cringeworthy and and as comfortable as it is, I'm like I still had fun. I was like, this is so bad. It's so such a horrible thing to do to her character. Um, like I get the concept and all that stuff, but they could have done it in a way that was actually scary
Hmm.
or like scary creepy. This just came off as like cringy. A dude is trying to write a romance type thing. Like I don't know.
Hmm.
Like I don't know the whole concept of a living, breathing person finding themselves in a romance with like a ghost. I love that concept.
Hmm.
That's like the definition of gothic to me. You know,
Yeah.
uh, it could have been done cool because I'm also curious. Like, well, what does that look like in Star Trek? What does a ghost story look like in Star Trek? What does a cursed family or a possession story look like in Star Trek? And originally, the original idea for the script, I I still think it was a romance, but the original concept was that everything on Earth that is considered supernatural is actually one alien race. And I'm glad they
Huh.
didn't go that route.
Yeah.
So like every occurrence of a ghost, it was this race kind of hiding somewhere or whatever,
Hmm.
or possession. It was this one race. I'm like, so I'm glad they didn't do that.
Hmm.
But still, like, what does a sci-fi ghost story look like?
Hmm.
How do you try and explain this in like a science terms? Do you even need to? You know, could Star
Yeah.
Trek have that mystery? Like, what was that? Like, was that really a ghost?
Hmm.
I doubt it. We don't know what that is yet. We don't have the means to figure out what it was yet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. It's a bad episode and not bad in a good way, but
Hmm.
it's kind of a guilty pleasure for me.
A while back, I read this thing on Tumblr that was saying like it's so like it would be really cool if other aliens in Starfleet started like talking to humans about some of their like supernatural lore, but
Mm-hmm,
talking about it as if it's like a real thing,
mm-hmm,
you know? And so, it's like a Vulcan officer going up to like some engineering guy, and starting talking about like the taxonomy of Bigfoot. And
mm-hmm,
then being just like, wait, what? It's like, yes, he's real, isn't he? Like so tell me about him. Explain, like, how does that work? How does the cycle, like what's his deal? And it's like, wait, hang on a second. And then like the post just keeps going and it's like, oh yeah, now we're talking about Mothman,
mm-hmm,
stuff like that. And then it's like, oh yeah, and then it'd be crazy if they find out they're like, oh yeah, no, they are actually real, because like they would know, they've done like the sensor scans of Earth and
mm-hmm,
been like, oh yeah, we can confirm that Loch Ness is real. And then every human just starts freaking out. It's like,
mm-hmm.
wait, what?
Well, yeah. What's interesting is like, well, why couldn't they figure that out?
Yeah, yeah.
But I like that concept. Like,
Well, to be fair, humanity had a lot of things to do, you know, or humanity had a lot of things going on that led to the
Whoa.
foundation of like the Federation and stuff.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah.
so, but like that would have to be like first contact, when like
Mhm,
the Vulcans have all the tech and the humans still have nothing.
mhm,
That's when the Vulcans are like, "Oh yeah, this thing, there's this creature, I think your history file calls it Loch Ness." That's when people are like, "Wait, really? What?" You
mhm.
know? Because I mean, Starfleet, they could scan a planet on the other side of the universe, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
But
that
why would they scan their own planet?
no, but I mean, I think that's what's kind of the cool thing though. Like with all that technology and stuff, think of all the conspiracies and tall tales and ghost stories that they can like disprove.
Mm, mhm.
But I think it's just something fascinating to find other cultures and races throughout the galaxy that have similar stories.
Mm.
Like that would be something really wild. Like I you have to be really specific because like I'm pretty sure there's another race or another culture of aliens out there that has a Loch Ness type creature. But to them,
Mm.
it's not a ghost story or whatever. They're like, oh no, yeah, Nessie lives over there,
Yeah.
because it's just like a water creature. The Yeti is just like a furry person out there. But like, what if they go to like Vulcan or whatever? Not Vulcan, probably like Klingons. I don't know. Ferengis. They go to the Ferengi planet and they find out that they have a story that's almost identical to the Hookman. That would be really cool
That
because it's
would be
like, well,
cool.
wait a second. Is this a coincidence or where does that story originate from?
Hmm.
You know, do 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 Klingons have clowns? Do they have arts and all that stuff? Do they have a Klingon equivalent of clown and are people freaked out by it?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? Um, yeah, I don't know. I find that's kind of fascinating. There's a Torchwood episode where I don't know, they might be in Scotland. I don't know where they're at. But they're going camping and Captain Jack Harkness, one of the coolest characters ever, he says, "Did you know the human race is the only race in the galaxy that goes camping?" It's
Hmm.
like, huh, that's interesting. He's like, yeah, they actually go sleep outdoors for fun.
Hmm.
I was like, that's just a cool little sci-fi nugget that I'm like, wow, you do so much world building just in that little sentence.
Hmm.
You're like, wow, that's cool. And
I
then
like
that
it. Mm-hmm.
episode, they start disappearing and getting abducted, and you don't really know what's going on. And it turns out it's just a creepy cult.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Torchwood was always sci-fi, and you're always like they even had like quote unquote ghosts, which were aliens, but just like they acted like ghost rules.
Hmm.
So it was always something sci-fi. Nope, not this episode. The whole twist was like, nope, they're just a cult, like a
Yeah.
crazy cult murdering people, and I'm like, that's rad. Okay, okay. Does Star Trek need sci-fi every episode?
Oh, I mean, it is sci-fi every episode, but it doesn't
Yeah,
need to be like a sci-fi
yeah, you know what I
like
mean.
incident. Yeah,
Like we
yeah.
just said with Torchwood, like
Yeah.
there's nothing sci-fi about that. You
Yeah.
know, you could, like I said, man, Star Trek Five, not a very good movie, but I love all the camping scenes. I would watch a whole movie of just them camping. It's
Yep.
so fun. You know,
Hmm.
does it need sci-fi? I personally don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I don't know, man. I'm never gonna watch Longlegs, but good to know how you think. Um, Now as an adult, I never realized this as a kid, but as an adult, I just realized that Backdraft is essentially Silence of the Lambs, but with fire, because that's the whole concept. They
Oh.
believe that someone is purposely setting these fires. It's a
Mm.
serial arsonist. So to they go to a prison and they start talking to like one of the most notorious serial arsonist played by a very insane Donald Sutherland. And
Oh,
like
fascinating.
that's kind of like the backbone of the film. Like I think it's Stephen Baldwin and Robert De Niro, who's like the investigator.
Mhm.
They're kind of getting advice and help from Donald Sutherland's character of how to catch this arsonist.
Mm.
Like, man, I haven't seen that movie in so long, and then just a couple like I think it was when
What
Donald
was when he
Sutherland
passed?
passed. There's all these
Hmm.
backdraft clips start coming out. And I started watching. I was like, dude, this is such a rad movie.
Dang.
I think it was Ron Howard? Was it Ron Howard?
I don't know.
Luna. Who directed Backdraft? Ron Howard.
All right. And the correction is William Baldwin.
Oh, William Baldwin. That's right. Steven's the other one.
Hmm.
Well, I'm glad we got that out of the way. Kind of like a little prelude to our Halloween season, which is right around the corner.
Ooh.
Yeah. We're gonna be watching some. It's gonna be between Lost seasons, so I think we're gonna take a couple weeks to watch some spooky movies, Whew, which I'm nervous for. But
Get ready for Matt and I's Alien Romulus episode.
oh yeah, man, we gotta watch that.
Yeah.
But now to talk about something we don't want to talk about. At least that's what Sam said.
I did. You keep putting words in my mouth. All right,
Nope.
about this.
I saw two movies this past weekend, and I'm gonna have to talk to them about them at another time.
Mhm.
Just because this episode will take forever. And you said,
Right.
"Oh, good, you can talk about that when we record instead."
I did not say
That's
instead.
in your text. I'm pretty sure that's in your text.
I doubt it.
And if it isn't, that's the tone and inflection that I heard it in.
That's entirely on you.
And that makes it true.
That is your interpretation, and this is why people say media literacy is dead.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of dead, we're talking about Lost, Season 5, Episode 14, The Variable, in which Daniel Faraday returns with a plan that he doesn't want to share with anyone. So,
Right.
first off, before we get into this is technically the 100th hour of Lost.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. It's kind of
Okay.
weird because like the production has their number of episodes, but then
Mhm.
ABC has another one because there's a lot of two-parters and 2-hour ones, you know? So, but all in all, this is the 100th hour of Lost.
Mhm.
So, I wouldn't say it's a phenomenal 100th episode by any means.
I think it's it's a good episode, but I don't think it's
Yeah.
it's not
It's no
necessarily
Walking Dead. Ugh.
Uh-oh.
I hated that 100. That's the last episode I watched of The Walking Dead, the 100th.
Oh, wow.
They made a big deal about it. They make a big show. Basically, that's the episode where they're like, we're going to fight back against Negan. So what do? They
Hmm.
go to his warehouse complex place and they shoot all the windows. That's literally it, Sam. They may have killed a few of Negan's guys, but that's it. They just shoot all the windows, and it's like a long scene, and it has all the music and all this stuff, and that was the 100th episode.
Wow.
Yep, I'm like, well, we're done here, and I have never went back since.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again, another correction, because you had sent a text yesterday talking about, or sometime talking
All right.
about how the new D&D players handbook was going up online for those who pre-ordered. So you'll be reading that tonight. And I said, do it. It'll give us something else to talk about on the podcast tomorrow. Just something else. Not
This is how I heard it.
There's okay.
Good. So that'll give us something else to talk about on the podcast.
Well, that is again your interpretation.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, texts are subjective.
Yeah, I
So,
guess.
what did you think about this episode?
Um, good episode, solid episode. Uh, very, very much in the vein of like last week's episode. Like this, like kind of like a classic Lost episode.
Yeah.
You know, um, lots of interesting, sneak peeks and tidbits about the world that these characters are living in, and I am just upset that they decided to kill off a character
Mm-hmm.
because I really feel like maybe we shouldn't have killed off this character.
Yeah, it sucks that they just bring him back for this.
Yeah,
You know? And
yeah.
like that's fine, I get it. But my main issue with this episode was that we're going back to old classic Lost in that no one communicates.
Hmm.
You know, like let's talk about last week's episode, which was Miles' episode, uh, which again, a character who's been with us a little while, but we've seen some flashbacks, but he's never had his own episode before.
Hmm.
It was a it was a good flashback that was relevant to what was the story on the island, you know? Like, okay, that's
Hmm.
good. Uh Miles doesn't want to communicate. He doesn't want to talk to anyone, but it makes sense for his character.
Hmm.
Like he's dealing with some really emotional head warping timey-wimey crap, you know? Like I understand why he doesn't want to talk to anyone.
Hmm.
And Hurley even has to call out that lack of communication, like that's his problem. This episode, it's almost like they try and do the exact same format. Okay, we're going to focus on Daniel Faraday now, do the flashback, bring him back, but he doesn't want to talk about any of this because it's so complicated and because so much of what's happening on the island with his mom and with the time travel and all this stuff has to deal with his family. They're like, he doesn't want to talk about it. But it's just done in a horrible way. Like everyone's saying, like, why won't you tell us? Why won't you tell us? And it's always, it's hard to explain. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I was just so frustrated. Also, because
Hmm.
it wasn't until I started this episode that I remembered how it ended. I was like,
Hmm.
oh, that's right. So I was very frustrated this entire episode, already knowing that he dies and like seeing how this leads up to it. And I'm watching him like, how was I ever surprised by this? Like the
Hmm.
fact that he walks into the camp with a gun,
Hmm.
like I don't know, man. Like there's some big leaps of logic, you
Yeah.
know, which again, like we're fine with characters making mistakes, but it's like when they're not really acting in character, like I don't get it, man. It's just
Hmm.
I think there was a lot of bad writing in this episode.
I agree.
It wasn't enough to call it a bad episode, but it just a lot of stuff just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
They needed to kill off Dan and they're going to do it no matter what. You know,
Yeah.
that's what it felt like.
And it sucks because it's like they really don't introduce that idea until like 10 minutes before the end of the episode.
Right.
Because they Jack, Kate, and Faraday get caught in like a firefight and Faraday gets grazed. So
Yeah.
Jack's just cleaning up his wound and Faraday has to explain that like, this is our present.
Yeah.
Like everything else around, like, yes, for us technically like it's already happened, but this is our present, we are living it, so
I
anyone can die.
I wonder, do you think this is because it's an ABC show? Because we've been time traveling all friggin' season. You know, there's literally 3 episodes left.
Hmm.
And they're still having to explain it to Jack. Like, even though this is fairly new to him, like we as the audience are just like, okay, we've been through this. Like, do you think it was kind of on a high from higher up, like, hey, you need to explain things more, to the
I mean, yeah,
audience?
potentially, yeah.
Like, we had problems with Hurley,
Hmm.
being the like talking about time travel and Back to the Future, but then not understanding time travel and apparently not understanding Back to the Future either.
Yeah.
So it's like I really wonder if that was going on behind the scenes where the higher ups were just like, you got to make this more digestible, you know,
Probably, yeah.
which is
Yeah.
just total BS.
Hmm.
Like, double down, man. Like, I know this show is 20 years old, but like coming off of Dark, which is a very convoluted and complicated story, I'm
Hmm.
like, that Dark never treated its audience. It always respected them enough to be smart enough to keep up. It
Hmm.
didn't handhold, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, if you can't keep up, too bad. We're going to
Hmm.
make you a website that shows the family tree and gives all the little details, but we're not going to hold your hand in the actual show, you know?
Hmm.
And I wish Lost, for as groundbreaking as that first season was,
Hmm.
I wish it had kept. I think it would have kept that momentum if they had kept that attitude. Be like, hey, you got to keep up or go home.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
by the time we get into this, like Lost, you can buy the episodes. You know, this
Hmm.
is one of the first shows where you could buy off of iTunes.
iTunes.
So it's not like the good old days Star Trek where it's like, hey, if you miss an episode, you're SOL. It's like,
Hmm.
no, you could buy it for $2.99. You know, so it was accessible to rewatch if you needed to.
Yeah.
I think it was even like one of the first shows. Like I think it was streaming off the ABC site. So
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
yeah, like
So it's like you had options because and
mhm,
I think like they were doing reruns. I think it was like on Sunday nights or something like that. And
maybe
then but yeah, that was just kind of the thing. That was just kind of the thing. Like again, like it's one of the first shows that you could watch online
yeah,
after the episode premiered,
yeah.
you
If
know.
you couldn't, I would understand why they would want to keep explaining time travel.
Hmm.
But it's like,
Hmm.
could it, I think that's just the it's that weird time where TV was changing so fast.
Hmm. What?
What's that? There's a little hand.
What do you mean?
It just said a little hand pop up on my screen.
Oh, okay. Like in the chat or?
Yeah, just on the screen. It was like a little hand emoji. I wonder if it's like it's one of those things. So like if you're in a meeting or whatever, like oh hey, someone's holding up their hand.
Mm,
That's
God,
so bizarre.
you scared me.
Okay, you turned around. You thought it was behind you.
Yeah, you were like, what is that? Like you're just looking and I'm like, what? Like
Long legs.
there's a little hand. I'm like, I'm gonna rip it off of me. I'm not fucking Ah, ah.
This is what
Yeah,
happens when we
we
talk about scary movies.
God, jeez. Yeah, well, like good on long legs, I guess, because like it really did freak me out. I like
Man, October's
yeah,
gonna
because
suck.
we put stuff on, afterwards, and I was just like, yeah, like it was scary. Like so I'll give it that, but it's like I don't know. I felt like I was trying to like make myself feel better, which is just like, yeah, of course, like obviously the devil's real. Like that's just not
Did you watch it
ooh
at night?
it was like a 4.
Mm,
Yeah. So like it was getting dark by the time it ended, and I was like, yeah,
yeah,
okay. Also, it was just very overcast like this weekend.
yeah.
But but yeah,
Mm-mm.
but we put more stuff up. We kept watching Never Stop Blowing Up after that. I was like,
Yeah.
this is great. This is fantastic. And then as it's getting closer to like the time to go to bed, I'm like, I have to turn off the lights. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So I ended up like keeping because we keep like the door open.
Mhm.
I just kept I kept the lights on in the living room. So I was like, okay, this is fine. It's all
There you
good.
go. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh man. So are you the type of person? Okay, here's a character question. Like I'm trying to gauge your character, your personality.
Okay.
You're home alone.
Uh-huh.
Do you have all the lights on? Okay, you're home alone. You're a little freaked out. Maybe you just watched Longlegs.
Hmm.
Are you the type of person who leaves the lights on or off?
Ooh.
Because you just said lights on, but is that like was that like a one time thing?
Oh, like normally?
Well, no, you said you were freaked out, so you left the lights on.
Hmm. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So was that just a one time thing, or are you the person like you would just you'll leave a light on if you're a little freaked out?
No, I'll leave a little light on
Okay.
if I'm freaked out.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen a lot, usually because like I'll watch movies like earlier in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's something scary, like I don't really want to do that. Um, just because, just one, it's weird because it's like if I like if I watch a bad movie at any point in the day, I'm just gonna feel bad. Like it just makes me feel like, oh, I wasted my time with that one. Like, why
Yeah.
did I do that? But if I watch like a scary movie, it's like I want to do it during the day. So it's like, yeah, like it's bright outside, like, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Jackie Chan has that philosophy too. Scary movies in the morning and happy movies at night. Um,
My
so
philosophy is just don't watch scary movies.
but then how are we going to talk about them, man? Um, but yeah, like if something really does the job and really freaks me
Mm-hmm.
out, then I'll turn the lights on.
Yeah. I remember in Scouts, one guy was saying, he's like, no, man, I leave lights off. He's like, because if there's a ghost, I don't want to see the lights go off. I'd rather just not know he's there. Okay.
I
I see your point.
see, I get that, but the ghost is gonna do everything else in its power to let you know that it's
Yeah.
there.
I'm like, if the ghost, yeah, exactly. And if the ghost isn't there, I'm still gonna think he's there because everything's dark.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know? We also talked about dogs because he had a dog and he was like, oh yeah, I keep my dog with me though because he'll protect me. Like from a ghost? No, like the dogs are the number one indicator that there's a spirit nearby. Because like
Mm-hmm.
animals know, man. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, sleep in another
There
room.
yeah, yeah. There was a book that came out a long time ago. I think it was, oh dang it, how is it? It's not How to Survive a Horror Movie.
I do
Because
remember that one though.
no, because that just came out. Um,
Oh,
yeah, that's a book that just came out like this year. Um, but it was something like the horror movie survival guide. I think that's what
okay.
it was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The horror movie survival guide came out kind of around the same time that like the zombie survival guide by
Right.
Max Brooks came out.
Yeah, there's that like a whole phase of those.
Yeah. So this one was like horror movie, like everything. So it had like all this stuff.
Hmm.
And I remember reading through that thing because at the time I was still in my horror infancy where I was like, I'm fascinated by it, but I don't want to watch it. But
Hmm.
but I know all this knowledge about horror stuff, but I don't want to watch it. I don't like scary movies.
Yeah.
But there were like specific chapters for like different things, and one of them was about like I think it was just like poltergeist. It was either poltergeists or like possession,
Hmm.
and they had a little section that was like the dog test. It's like
Mm.
usually in horror movies, if there is a dog, they are an indicator of how messed up things are. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, so if you bring a cursed object or an object you think is cursed to your dog, you just have it sniff it, and if it sniffs it and does nothing, cool, great, fantastic,
Hmm.
nothing bad. If it starts barking at it, okay, like that's gonna be, we'll see. Like maybe it's best to just get rid of it right now.
Hmm.
Uh if it starts like yelling and like running around and stuff, like definitely cursed. And if your dog just up and dies, uh drop the object, leave your family, don't tell anybody where you're going, and enjoy your life in your new identity wherever you are.
Hmm.
Because yeah,
And I've learned with sequels that no, you'll just die alone.
that's true. That's true. Or they'll make you come back to the spot
Uh-huh.
as a redemption, to like face your fear, and then
Yeah.
that usually means that like, I faced my fear and by dying.
Speaking of which, Sigourney Weaver, she says she's down to come back for Ripley to play
Uh
Ripley again. I was like,
I'm I'm so fascinated by that.
So am I.
I would absolutely love her to do it.
Yeah.
But don't be cowards. don't be cowards and set this as a thing of like, oh, well, we're just gonna ignore Alien 3 and 4 because those were the bad movies. No, you
No,
cowards.
just
You
do it.
said it after
Yeah.
Alien Resurrection.
Because she
You
survives, right?
take
Like
that
the clone?
into account. Yeah,
She's a clone, right? And she
yeah,
survives. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, she's a clone. There you go.
yeah.
So, not gonna lie, when the scene where Faraday has lunch with his mom and she leaves him the package and he opens
Hmm.
it, I was like, ooh, is it gonna be the book? Is it gonna be the book? A Journey Through Time by H.G. Townhouse? That'd been so rad.
It's like, wow, they really planted those seeds
Yeah,
for an
yeah.
entirely different show
Wow.
decades from now.
Yeah.
Wow.
What if Lost and Dark are in the same universe? Well, technically, slight spoilers. If you haven't watched Dark, go watch
I
Dark.
mean,
Technically, Dark is in its own universe. That's kind of the
yeah,
whole point of the show.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
I miss those characters, dude. I was thinking
I
about
do too. They
I was
keep
thinking about
popping
the
up
other
in my
day.
head. I'm like, oh man, I
I
miss you
miss
guys.
Jonas. I miss Marta. And I was thinking
Hmm.
about the other day. I'm like, I don't plan on watching it again anytime soon. But I'm like, I really miss those characters.
Hmm.
This is a damn good show.
That was a good show.
A plus. Oh, I'm sorry. As the internet tiers go, that was a an S. That's an S show.
Yeah, S tier.
Yeah, S tier for sure.
Hmm. Lost for me, I would say Lost is like A. It's an A tier.
I do too.
It because it has its ups and downs. I think for me, it's a little uh uh we'll see, but I really do think that it's just like, it's the journey, you know? It's like
Yeah,
there even shows like Dark I had my gripes with,
yeah.
but it really came through, at the end. So yeah,
Lost
yeah.
at its best is definitely an S tier show,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
there's enough ups and downs that like I think would keep it in an A tier for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but it depends on how it sticks to landing.
Yeah.
Because on this watch, if I absolutely love the landing, I could see myself sticking it in S.
Hmm. Yeah. I agree.
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to first. We'll have to discuss how we feel about the season compared to the others,
Hmm.
and then we'll have to. I'm assuming early next year is when we'll finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I honestly don't have anything else to say about the show. Oh, there was the reveal that Whitmore is Faraday's dad.
Oh, what a twisted web this show weaves.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, man, like, and it's weird. Like, it never occurred to me until he said it. I was like, oh yeah, who is
yeah,
Faraday's dad? Like, it's you monster. So technically, Penny and Faraday are siblings?
yeah.
Whoa.
I'm glad we got to
Whoa.
see more of them, so we got to see what happened. You
Hmm.
know, Penny's okay, Baby Charlie's okay, Desmond is okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks like he just got shot in the arm. So it's like, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So that was good. Yeah, man. I don't know. Everything. This episode is clearly. It feels like a part one. There's a lot of things that happen, but like, there's not
Mhm.
really a lot to discuss. Like, it feels like it because everything's going to lead into next week. The
Yeah.
gig's up. There's a shootout. Jack Cade and Faraday and
Hmm.
Rositsky and the cronies. Um, they capture Sawyer and Juliet.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
where does Hurley end up? Hurley and Miles. They're just kind of outside watching everything happen, right?
Yeah, because they went to go get they were just packing.
Okay.
Like, yeah, yeah.
Oh, and
Actually,
Jin's with them as well.
yeah. I don't know where Miles is. Because Hurley and Jin like end up meeting up together. As they
Jin
see
sees the
Rudzinski.
security team go to Sawyer's.
Yeah.
So I
And
don't
her
remember what happens. I'm going to my prediction is that Jin's gonna save the day.
Yeah,
Jin
I hope
needs more to
so.
do this season.
Yeah.
Sun
Oh
and
God.
Jin, this is very reminiscent of early seasons. Sun and Jin have really
Hmm.
gotten, and Saeed, they're really on the outs this season. They don't really have a lot to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. I'm not happy about that.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I feel like I don't know what they could do differently, especially with a cast this size, because Saeed got a lot of good stuff in the first half of the season.
mhm,
Um, but now that in the second half he's barely in it.
mhm.
Uh,
Well,
unfortunately,
he's not in it right now.
yeah,
He's been
he's been
gone
like
for
at
like
least
3
two episodes.
episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, unfortunately, Jack and Kate are constantly in it, but it's like, oh man, like
Hmm.
I get it. You know, he's one of those characters right now who's kind of coming and going out of the story. Um,
I also speaking of like bad writing, not great writing. I knew this was gonna happen. Like everything's coming to a head,
yeah.
and Sawyer is just so stuck that okay, yeah, now it's obvious that he's not going to be the one that's going to make the snap decision to get everybody out, or do anything like that. It's like, and
Hmm.
Jack kind of slowly like reverts back to like the leader where he just tells Kate like, you know where where the others are?
Yeah.
Can you get to them? And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, all right, and yeah, and then but what I thought was an interesting way to sort of show that Sawyer has lost sort of the high ground is have Juliet immediately just like tell Kate like the code,
Yeah.
because it's like I think it was weird. It was weird the way they did it. My interpretation is that like she can tell that this isn't gonna go the way
Hmm.
this isn't gonna go the way anybody wants to go. Like we're just gonna be sitting around doing this for a while,
Hmm.
and we don't have time. So here's the code. But
It.
the way they choose to do it is that Sawyer is trying to convince Kate not to go back, that she should go with them,
Mhm.
and he says, "Come with me, Freckles."
Yeah.
And Juliet looks at like sees that and then looks at Kate and just kind of it's the dumb thing of like uh, it's using like the jealousy sort of trope
Mm.
to automatically to like sidestep
Yeah.
uh you know um growth or progression or whatever, and
Mm.
just to convey a thing. I think
Yeah.
Juliet plays it off as like, hey, you're gonna go do your own thing, here's the code, do that,
Yeah.
because
Well,
that leads to Juliet like and Sawyer kind of like trying to communicate and being like, hey, like, do we have each other's backs, because
see,
they've
but
been living together for 3 years,
that's
and it's
that's why I
like,
think it's okay. Like I'll let that slide because they address it. Like Juliet is really questioning Sawyer's loyalty right now.
yeah.
Um, I don't think it's a jealousy thing. I mean, I think you're gonna be, that's a situation where like, she has to ask.
Well,
Just the scenario that they're in, she has to ask, you
here's the
know?
thing. Here's the thing. Like I agree with you. The problem is that the problem is in the writing. These characters are still being written as if 3 years of their lives haven't gone by. You know? It's like it's kind of the thing that we were talking about earlier, like lack of communication and stuff. But
Hmm.
like, okay, let's look at Miles for a second, where it's like, okay, that's very much his character, where he doesn't want to talk to people, he doesn't want to
Hmm.
do that. You're telling me after 3 years, 3 years, he hasn't opened up just a little bit to to anything or to anybody, all that stuff. Like things have changed, but I mean, Juliet and Sawyer are together, but then all of a sudden it's just like, okay, now we're all kind of walking back whatever little progression we've done in 3 years,
I don't know. I
you
mean,
know?
I gotta disagree. Like, the Miles thing, like, I get it, man. Like, he goes 30 years holding that grudge. What is 3 years on the island going to do to change him? You could write it where he does change and open up a little bit. The fact that he doesn't help Dan says a lot. And we've seen that a lot this season, how he's loyal to Sawyer now.
Mm,
And I do like that.
yeah.
But it took Hurley like pulling, tooth and nail to get Miles talking. And also because Dr. Chang was right there, so that helps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that's what it took to get Miles to open up. I think
Hmm.
that's just a very realistic thing, especially when it comes with parental relationship drama.
Yeah.
Like people are just, that's one of those hardest. I've never been in that position, but it seems like that's like the deepest. If you don't have if that's your problem, if that's the thing in your life, like there's not much that's harder than that, you
Yeah.
know? Now,
Yeah.
as from a writing standpoint, sure, I don't know, but like, why would we have him progress through that if it's not going to pay off in some other way? Like, there's so much happening,
Hmm.
what would be the storytelling purpose of showing Miles' progression if by the end of his episode we're going to see his real progression? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah. 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 Fine. Sure. But then why have a 3-year time jump at all? Just to show that, like, oh, we've been stuck here for 3 years and this is our lot in life. And now we're fully in Dharma and, doing all this
well,
stuff. It's like,
no,
okay.
I mean, I think they've done a good job of showing Juliet and Sawyer going through that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Um,
but what I'm getting at is that, like, it just feels it just feels strange to have this little moment
mm,
where Sawyer he has nicknames for everybody. He's giving everybody nicknames again, and then to have him throw out this nickname that he's already given to Kate, and then that
yeah,
sort of be the impetus for Juliet to be like, all right,
I, I, me personally, I don't, that's not the way I took that scene, but I could definitely see where you're coming from. But I mean, it's like, that's his ex, even if it was just for a few
like
months.
3 weeks,
Dude, they
like
were in
three
love. They
weeks.
were in love. Like maybe in the grand scheme of things, not really, but like we're asking that question: Is Sawyer running from responsibility, or did he actually sacrifice himself to save Kate by jumping off the helicopter? You
Mm,
know, I don't know, man. If I've never been in that position to have like a significant other to then run into their ex,
mm,
you know, especially if they are on good terms. I've never been in that position before. You know,
mm.
I'm just a simple man. I know my own inadequacies and my own weaknesses. I don't know how I would react in that position. I love nicknames. I hate pet names. You give little pet names to your partner. I'm like, oh, I hate this.
But
Um,
Pookie,
yeah. So I don't know, but I mean, like Juliet spent 3 years with him, and like
hmm,
ever since they came back, she's been questioning his loyalty. And I
hmm,
think the reason it works is because Sawyer's also questioning his loyalty.
mm,
That's what was nice in the last episode or the one before where he tells Kate, he's like, I'm doing this for her, for Juliet. I thought that was a cool moment,
hmm.
but Juliet didn't see that happen.
Yeah.
So I think that was a huge moment for Sawyer and for Kate to realize that. But also, I don't think Juliet did it out of jealousy. Juliet was in the exact same position a couple episodes ago where they were saying, what do we do now? Do we go back to the beach? Or what do we do? Whatever. And they're fighting over it. And she takes Sawyer's side. She's like, let's go to the beach. But
Hmm.
then she's like, it's still a bad plan. But if we don't make a decision, we're going to stay here doing nothing.
Yeah.
That's who Juliet is. And I
All
think
right.
that's why she gave the code.
All right.
Um,
Fair enough.
But I do think there is something in there like, oh, yeah, he is using Kate's nickname and she has been questioning Sawyer's loyalty this whole time.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I think it's warranted. I think it's validated. Validated? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's warranted. It wouldn't have worked if it wasn't for that scene where she asks him, "Is like, do you still have my back?"
Yeah.
That's just this one guy's opinion. I don't know. And on that note, any predictions, Sam? Is Julia going to be jealous next week?
She might be. She might be. This is wait, let's remember there, there are a bunch of white dudes writing the show, and it's primetime ABC, back in the
Yeah.
mid 2000s. Like, let's
I'm just going
yeah,
by what we've seen in the show. And what they've
sure.
showed of
Yes.
Juliet's character so far lines up with her decision.
Okay.
You
Yes.
know?
I understand that. But
I know, but you're making a face of like, fine, we'll agree to disagree.
yeah,
I guess I'm not going to turn you around on this one.
no.
Predictions then.
Jin's gonna come busting through the window with two AK-47s, and he's gonna shoot. He's gonna unload the payloads into Redzinski, and then the two other guys that are with him are gonna try and they're gonna try and like get Jin, but somehow Jin's gonna like tuck and roll, and then they're gonna unload their guns into Redzinski,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, and then nobody has guns anymore. And then Hurley comes in and, says it's clobbering time and then punches the two other guys out. That's my
Nice.
prediction. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right. MVPs.
Um,
I feel like this one's a tough one.
this one is a tough one because I think like the obvious answer would be to go with like Faraday,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like he really didn't give us anything that we hadn't seen from
Right.
him already. It's just kind of like I will say this. I will say that I'll give him a big shout out, big kudos because of his scenes with both Widmore and his last scene with his mom
Mm-hmm.
before he goes to the island, because I think those two scenes in tandem really really stood out to me as like, this is a guy whose entire life has crumbled and who is still being used by these people
Yeah.
for whatever purpose. Like, for Widmore it seems nefarious, for his mom it's just like something, like he just can't put his finger on it, and it's so freaking heartbreaking when, she's trying to get him to go to the island. He's like, if I do this, will it finally make you proud of me?
Yeah.
And she like there's so much pain in that.
Mm-hmm.
There, just on his side, there's so much pain in that. And it's like, dang. But I
Yeah.
think I've got to give it to Eloise.
Mm.
I've got
Okay.
to give the MVP to Eloise, because even though for most of the episode she is just, you know, she has this very interesting role of having to be the overbearing mother, of having to be the parent to push her son to do great things and do better and do all this stuff for some reason that we don't know, and she won't tell her son.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like she's just doing all of this not knowing how much pain she's putting her son through, and then by the time we get to the very end of the episode, we realize this is it's so twisted. This is like on par with like a dark
Yeah.
storyline,
No,
you
she
know?
knew how much pain he was in. And that's the
Yeah.
twisted part. That's why she was in tears in the beginning when she has to
Hmm.
tell him he can't play piano anymore. Like she
Hmm.
knows exactly what she's doing, but she still continues to do it.
Hmm.
The actress's name, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, is Fionnuala.
Hmm.
It might just be Fiona, but it's spelled Fionnuala
Hmm.
Flanagan.
Hmm.
Yeah, man, she did great.
Hmm.
Also, shout out to Jeremy Davis, who plays Faraday. I think he did
Hmm.
a great job with a very limiting material
Script.
they gave him.
Yeah.
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 But I guess we'll figure out what happens next week when we watch Lost. Season 5, episode 15, Follow the Leader, in which we discover whether or not Faraday actually knew what the hell he was talking about. But until then, in our latest edition, our series finale of Marry, Bang, Die Fighting Beside.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, who would you rather marry, bang, or die fighting beside?
Uh-huh.
Ana Lucia,
Okay.
Desmond,
Okay.
and Sun.
Oh. Oh. Oh, this is tough.
This is a tough one.
Dang, this is a tough one.
I'm going to say it right now.
Uh-huh.
Banging Ana Lucia.
Yeah, 100%.
The question is, who do we marry? Desmond or Sun?
Oh, man.
Those are two of the most powerful romances in TV history, much less this show, you know? Desmond and Penny, and then Sun and Jin. Like,
this breaks my heart. This really breaks my heart to do this.
uh-oh.
I'm gonna marry Sun.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Because she's been through enough. She's been through
I
enough.
just want to take care of her.
I just want to take care of her. I also want to just be taken care of. I can be a house husband. I don't mind that. I really don't. My pride will allow me to be a fantastic house husband. All right.
Yeah.
That apartment is going to be immaculate. I'll die fighting beside Desmond because he feels like the kind of guy who won't abandon you. You know?
Yeah.
Like he's like you and him would be in the trenches together.
Yeah.
You know?
You see, I'm going to go opposite. I was going to marry Desmond because we've seen Desmond fully in love and fighting to get back to Penny. You know?
That's true. That is
like, if
true.
I could have that in real life, I would.
Mm-hmm.
But I would die fighting beside Sun because we've seen how far she's willing to go for her child and for Jin, who for the longest time she didn't even know was she thought he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she's still making moves.
Mm-hmm.
And now that she knows he's alive, she's making moves to find her way back to him. Like that's a love as well. It's like, oh crap. But I think between the two characters, Sun strikes me as a little darker. Like she'll do some stuff, you know, for the love of her life. So like we'll die fighting beside each other. Like we're on the same team, back to back. Yeah.
I mean, to your, good point. And to your point, I want the guy, who's willing to do anything to get back to the woman he loves fighting right beside me.
Yeah.
That's,
True. Well, you know what, Sam? The theme of this episode is, we'll disagree to disagree. Oh, man. All right. It's gone on long enough. I'm on an empty stomach, so I'm just going to start spewing nonsense.
That's why we're so heated this episode.
Everyone, let us know what the frick you think about this episode. Is Juliet jealous of Kate? Who would you rather marry, Sun or Desmond? Answer these important questions we want to know. But yeah, we got 2 episodes left. Next week's the penultimate episode of the season. And then we're in the season finale time, baby. So yeah, let us know what you think. Hashtag Lost Legacies. I'm on Twitter at _Matt Jimenez and on Instagram at Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Reel, that's REEL, Texas Weirdo.
Until next time, get lost.
Get lost.